All right. It looks like we are live and just about ready to go. I'm doing some sound and settings tweaks here, and then I think we're good to go to switch over to the drawing layout. Just need to make sure my EQ's where it needs to be at. I'll explain in a sec. All right, let's go ahead and switch over. Okay. What I've done is I've loaded up the file we were working on before with the character study and the outfits, and we're going to go ahead and jump straight into this. But first, like we usually do on the drawing streams, I'm going to put together a BGM track for us to put in the background. And what I was saying when we were getting started regarding the sound settings, I recently got a chance to talk to one of the pro beatboxers I know, and he found out that one of my settings in the loop station was set on one of the main defaults, and it wasn't one I'd looked at before. And it has to do with how the audio is connected to USB. And the setting was causing problems in Discord if I try and use my loop like an audio device. And so that problem won't exist anymore. I can use it in Discord and I should have no issue. But it also changes the way the audio is received on my computer. So hopefully it should be fine. I've rearranged my settings a little bit with my mic sensitivity and things like dynamics and EQ. So we'll make sure that the spoken audio is coming in clean once we have things like the BGM track going in the background. So before, like we said here on the main canvas here, I put the message up. I'm going to mess around and come up with a good background loop to use, and then we'll go ahead and resume the character study. This one will require a lot less intro and setup. We can pretty much go in and start free sketching character outfits. But first, let's see if we can come up with a good beat. I've got my loop off to the side, so the camera might get a little screwy since I'm not going to be looking directly at it for a minute. All right, so let's see. I'm thinking something maybe a bit more mid-tempo this time. Maybe we can do something that's kind of a mix of hip-hop influences, since that tends to be fairly common, but I learned a couple things that maybe we can try out and implement on the loop today. So let me see if I can set the beat up first. I'm thinking maybe something that's not quite so straightforward in 4/4, so like a something like that, and maybe it's like a 2-measure repeat instead of just a 1-measure real short repeat. So let me see if I can get it captured, and then I'll check the playback levels, make sure it's not drowning me out on the mic, since I need to make sure the settings are good. So let's see. Let's see if we can move this over a little bit more. This is the fader set fairly low, which is fine because I can still hear it. And beat playback is hitting about 50% in OBS. It's almost the bare minimum before the volume cuts out completely. But I think that should be fine. Now, before we move on to bass and other potential instruments for the background track, I'm just watching the loop cycle and thinking about what I'd want to add to the kit. We could go for a reverb effect and then double the snare. Maybe add a click to it. So let's see, got reverb set to about 16%. Kind of a subtle echoing effect. Let's see if I can do this without screwing it up on the first try. Feels like the second click is slightly off. So let me try it again. One thing I have learned, and I'll talk about this on the jam stream in depth a little bit more, I finally learned how to use the undo redo button. So now if I make a mistake, I know how to undo it one layer, since that's the extent of the ability. So if I mess up and I need to redo something, I don't have to kill the whole track and re-record it, which is nice. But let me see if I can redo the click to double the snare. Just realized I reset my EQ. There, volume should be better now for speaking. All right, let's see if I can get that cleaner. Okay. I think that'll do. There's a kind of faint click and you can hear a little bit of the reverb on it, which is good. Now bass line. I want to go back to experimenting with our distorted bass lines. What we've done a couple times in the past is we've looked at the guitar to bass combined with the lo-fi to get that kind of fuzzy, distorted, scratchy bass. I want to do that again, but I want to try and see if I can shorten up the bass line instead of long sustained notes. Maybe something that's a bit more bouncy in tempo instead of just long drawn out bass lines that kind of step up or step down. So let's see. I'm going to have to turn on the effects and then you guys won't be able to understand me while I mess around with some note progression for the bass. Let's see, maybe. If we go for like a really heavy bass, I'll go a little less than 50% on guitar to bass. Oh, hey, Edward's here. Sorry, I turned off my effects a second so I could talk. Hey, Edward. Welcome to the drawing stream. We are getting set up with the BGM, and then we'll be getting rolling. That last bass line I did was actually pretty close to what I wanted, but the second to last note, I came in kind of off key on it, so the whole thing was fine up until the end. So I'm going to do something similar. Maybe I'll make it a little bit less complicated so I don't have to worry about messing it up. But I kind of like the idea of that moving bass line, maybe going up, down, not coming all the way back down and kind of half-stepping it. Let me see if I can kind of map it out in my mind before I actually record it and try and get it on the first try here. All right. Took a second, but I think that'll be functional for a bass line. I have the fader set fairly low, but real quick, Edward, if I were to leave the BGM levels here and talk normally, are you able to hear me all right? Well, I'm kind of loud in my own headphones, but speaking volume, how's it balancing? Like I mentioned when we were starting, I had to change my loop settings recently after I learned some stuff. So let me know if I need to adjust up or down so you can hear the stuff in the background. All right. Edward says sounds good. All right. Thanks, man. Let's save that. I thought about adding a kind of synth-ish line to it, but I think we'll keep it simple for now and get started with the actual drawing. On this weekend, I believe, the next jam stream, I'm going to be explaining some new things with the loop that I learned. Nothing super monumental, but I did learn how to make a really interesting effect from one of the pros. So I'll demonstrate that when we get more time to kind of talk through the technique and whatnot. But in the meantime, we can let this rock. All right, let's see. So we can get rid of this. All right, if we zoom back in on our canvas, I'll do sort of a recap of where we left off last time. with the character study. And I'm going to explain some changes that I made sort of offline before we got started today. In the previous character study, we did a lot of work with just a pose, getting set up on our space here for the character. And we went for kind of a neutral 3/4 pose because I hate myself. I did like an arms raised, hand out pose here, which I can move the arm around for the concept work. That doesn't really matter too much. But another thing I did was I actually rendered out the head, and then we kind of stuck it on the sketch over the sketch layer as we were drawing outfits and whatnot, and it looked really weird, and I wanted to change the scale on the head anyway, so I reverted it back to sketch mode, and then when I actually render out concepts, I'll figure that out at the time. Hey, Wazzy's here. Hey, Wazzy, welcome to the drawing stream. Wazzy said, should have done a T-pose. I could have done that if I used the Clip Studio 3D models. If I was doing 3D modeling or rendering for like a CGI type thing, I probably would. One, because T-poses are funny, and two, because that's usually the standard for creating character models. For sketching, not so much. If we were to do that, let's see, it'd probably be something like maybe the head a little bit up further so it doesn't look like I'm drawing someone on a crucifix. There we go. Might be something like that if I was going to do a T-pose. Yeah, maybe I'll do that for a concept thing sometime. I think it would look kind of strange to do like outfit studies and whatnot, but I suppose I could. I'll think about it. Wally says Jesus. That's right, Jesus wants you to subscribe to the channel. I'm just gonna leave that there and see if anybody else notices. Okay, let's see. Make sure my line weight's where I need it. So let's see. We're gonna work on the third model here. I don't know how many of these we're gonna do today. One of the reasons why I moved my stream time up earlier in the days, so I can pretty much do this for as long as I want to, for I either get tired and run out of ideas or I get bored. So the idea is to potentially do as many of these as possible, just to spitball ideas, kind of like we did before, and see what comes out of it. So let's see. We've done sort of a coat outfit. We've done a mix of armor. I definitely want to mess around with some more armor designs. But let's see. Because I'm working over the sketch of the head, which is on a separate layer, I'm just gonna kind of draw over it and it'll be fine. If I actually ink any of these, I can make sure I fix that and make sure the proportions are okay. kind of the effect I'm going for here is kind of similar to like a collar, a spiked collar. Let's see if we can go for something a little bit more out there for a design, just for contrast. Could do sort of a torso piece instead. What I'm doing here is thinking about what kind of sort of setup I want to have on the torso here. I could do an armor piece. I guess I need to kind of commit to the idea of either doing an outfit or armor for this one. I think I'm going to do more shirt-looking garment on the top. I mean, not something that's like a form-fitting skin-tight shirt. Maybe something that's a bit more loose. Maybe something that cuts off about there. Actually, what I could do just to make it a little bit less obscured, or is it? I could clear out some of the line art on the head just to make it clear what I'm doing here on the actual model. There we go. What we got now is kind of more of a like a high colored shirt. We're sort of give ourselves some boundaries on the limbs here. Now for, let's see, the lower section. If I was going to do armor, then I put like a like a waist or a lower midsection piece down around here. And then maybe something similar to this where we have either armor on the legs or things like protection on the from the knee down, but we don't have to do that here if we're going for more casual wear. The real question is, what kind of lower torso outfit do we want? Could do something like this where there's kind of a more tattered looking edge to the lower part of the shirt. It's not really a skirt per se, it's just a long shirt. What I've got here is kind of like these sashes here around the waist, kind of functioning like belts, keeping the shirt where it's at. And what we could do, let's see, get the neck a little more clearly defined here. What we could do is also make the shirt have some sort of decorative patterning, kind of in line with the markings we've got here and here. Maybe something like, this is just an example. Have markings that go kind of across or in some direction on the torso here to kind of give it some more flair to it. But for the lower legs, could do kind of like a pattern leggings type thing. What I'm going to do is kind of rough in a place for where the shoes would start, and then I'll get the details for that once we figure out the leggings. I don't know if I want to go the boots route for this, maybe more like kind of high top shoes. We did the boots thing more over here, and this look is more of armored, kind of armored shoes. Well, let's see if we did something like this and actually gave it some kind of textured patterning, maybe more a contoured look. It's kind of more of an active wear material kind of thing. And if we were to think about how the coloring would work, just so it's clear, maybe something like that. And for the arms, this is more of a casual, out and about outfit as opposed to like armor or kind of a more combat oriented outfit. Wouldn't even need to do anything really on the hands. Maybe gloves. The gloves probably wouldn't be necessary for an outfit like this, so you probably just leave it the way it is. Now let's see for the shoes. Do kind of like a variation on the one we got over here. Can erase that. Hey, Abby's here. Abby says, yo. Hey, yo, Abby. Welcome to the drawing stream. We are working on character concept outfits here and just brainstorming ideas. Hopefully your day is going well. It's really more of a kind of placeholder design for the footwear. Something like that. What I'm going to do is sort of clean up the edges around different parts that look a little more obscured for the sketch here. Just to make it clear what the different parts are and doesn't look like one big blob of lines. Going back to the decorative markings on the shirt itself. Let's see. Could do something like this. And if we were to continue the patterning, the coloring would go down to about here. Maybe this whole edge would be that color. Give you something like a bracelet or some sort of accessory on an arm if we wanted to. Not necessary, but if we wanted to make it so it looked a little bit less plain, you could always do accessories. Here, I can do this for the actual markings. Just line in like a little bit of shading to show where the markings go. Here, like down here, this entire section. If I was going to render this thing out, I'd probably mess around with a couple different patterns and layouts, and see what fit. What we got here. I like the look of that. Seems like we've been getting more bots lately. What's up with that? Zoom out a little bit and start taking a look at scale and how this particular outfit matches up to the others, and then I need to start making some room here. Forget where I put all my heads. Let's move them in a group. I wish my keyboard was closer. I have to kind of stretch and reach all the way across in order to hit my keys. That's fine. I do it like this, just to make more room. Okay, there we go. Get that off there so it's not taking up space. All right, so outfit number 3. Like I said, a little bit more of like a casual wear type look. Cut off short sleeve-ish shirt. That's kind of more of a ragged edge on the bottom. And for the legs, kind of a more legging type garment, and then got shoes. Again, a lot more casual. Could be possible for potential just walking around type outfit, which is what I was going for here. Let's see, let's put the primary back. and work on another one. And what I'll do is I'll copy the head over and match it up with the primary, and we'll sketch it out the same way. We'll do the exact same exercise, the fourth model. I could do the sketch directly on the same layer. Now that I think about it, there's no real particular good reason why I need to make them separate. They're going to be merged together anyway, and when I ink out the final ones I want to use, it's all going to have to be off the same model. Let's do that for this one, since I end up erasing stuff sometimes. Hold on. Go back. Yeah, I'm going to do the sketch for this one right on this model. And this one, I'm going to go for a little bit more out there design. This one's going to be more armored, but I want to do a mask on this one. This one is designed to be more like an armored mask, not necessarily like a cloth ninja mask. The real question is what kind of patterning we want on it. These would be like breathing vents. Something like that. That's automatically a pretty different look. Ah, Penguin's here. Penguin says, "Hi Raku, would normally say I'm getting ready for work, but today's my day off, and I'm currently waiting for my friends." I gotcha. Well, it's good that you have the day off. Is this your last day off before the final rush going up till Christmas? You said you're working the Eve, right? I think I remember you mentioned you're going to be working Christmas Eve or right up to the holiday. All right, this one, let's see if we can mess around with that kind of spite color idea. Ah, Penguin says yes. All right, well, hopefully you get a chance to do something fun with your friends. And relax and prepare for the final stretch. Penguin says, tomorrow is the Secret Santa giving. I think you mentioned some of the interesting gifts that you bought before. That'll be fun. You'll have to let everyone know how the gifts that you got for your crew were received. Penguin said, also got a new collectible for my collection. What's that? Is it another piece of F-Zero merch or something different? What'd you get? Alright, for this one, I'm going to mess around with some designs for like an actual armored piece. This one's going to be kind of like a full torso-ish type thing, if I can make it work. Penguin says, yes, F-Zero. It's another launcher toy, but for the Dragon Bird, and it's completely brand new. It's currently up on Twitter. I see. Let me take a look real quick. Aha, I see. Oh, you just posted these like really recently. I gotcha. Dragon Bird. I see. That's pretty cool. Where did you get that? Looks like an import. Did you have to buy that online or from like an import store? Alright, let's see if we can do a lower torso piece. It's kind of different from what we did before on that other one. I may have to tweak the design here on this lower part. Penguin says, that's why I was late, because I was cleaning, shaving, and contacting the seller for that. Oh, they wanted me to update them on when it was delivered. I see. That's pretty cool, man. Penguin says, I bought it on eBay from a seller in Japan. I bought it from the seller before, so I know they're trusted. Ah, okay, so it is an import. Very neat. I'm assuming you're going to be keeping that in its box unopened for collector's value. we could do is kind of like an armored dress type deal. We didn't do that over here. Let's see what that would look like. Penguin says, yes, I'm never opening it. Gotcha. The serious collector's item then, for as far as the value is concerned. That's pretty neat. I would assume that the F-Zero property is probably more popular in Japan and is more likely to have merch and stuff, since I don't think I ever really saw them release merch over here. Put some kind of armored pieces that wrap around the lower part of the dress here. Maybe they're adhered to the actual fabric, like armored plating. You can even add similar type of decorative character symbol type thing on parts of the leg here. I'm just going to put something, kind of a placeholder in here. Penguin says, I bought it for about $60, and yes, most of the merchandise was released in Japan. The US did get some, but it was mostly posters or clothing exclusive to the development, which I own a piece of. I see. Over the years, again, F-Zero is not probably the most known brand here or in the States. But it's cool that you're able to track down merch that was either released here or that people are selling online via import, so that you can still get at it. You could even make it like a two-toned dual layered fabric. That's also a possibility. Let's see, what did we do? We did sort of a shoulder arm guard thing here. What if we did something that started off a little bit lower? It's more like kind of arm gauntlet type things. Because I wanted to do like a mesh body suit underneath the armor that'd be visible up here. Let's see. First, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with this other arm. Penguin says, also got to go. My friend is here. All right, man. Have fun. Thanks for coming in and hanging out and updating me on your collection. Take it easy. And good luck at work for the rest of the week. let's see, for the forearms, maybe we could do something that's kind of shaped like this. And then maybe I can adjust the sort of features as we go. I kind of like the idea of clawed gauntlets. We can roughen the details here. If I was going to render this one out, then I'd spend a little more time doing things like adding texturing and making sure it didn't look like this person just has random monster claws. What we can do is mess around with the texturing here. Make it look like this is kind of a layered armor piece. I don't know what you call these officially, like bracers, like a form of bracer maybe? Forearm guards, forearm armor, forearmor. Alright, making progress. This is what I was talking about with the kind of mesh bodysuit. If we're doing symmetry thing, going for kind of a look on both sides, which we went for an asymmetry, kind of upper torso look on the second outfit there. So we'll go for kind of a more symmetrical thing here. Put the other arm down here. We'll do the same patterning on the forearm guards. Roughly, it doesn't need to be completely perfect since it's just a sketch. We'll do something like this. Almost kind of looks like a mouth. Okay, we'll go ahead and put the shoes in here, and then we'll zoom out and take a look at what we've got. I'm gonna follow a similar type of armored shoe type thing like we did on the second outfit, kind of mirroring the idea of armor here. Wazzy says, will you one day be coloring it? So the point of the character study here is a good question, Wazzy. The point of the character study here is to just experiment with ideas and come up with different outfits for this character that I'm working on. And then the end goal is once I come up with either one or multiple outfits that are going to be kind of the base outfit for the character, then I'm going to do a full inked and colored rendering of that. And I think it'd be kind of neat to do a concept sheet that has a whole bunch of inked and colored outfits, just to show, kind of like they do for things like media development, where they have a character sheet. And it's like, here's the character in regular wear, here's the character in armor, and do like a whole bunch all laid out. I just haven't quite decided how I want to do the coloring yet. I could do fully line arted and flat colors. I could do that in shading, which is going to be a little more work. I don't know, but ultimately once I figure out what I want to work with and keep and move forward with, then yeah, I will be inking and coloring these. We may have 10 of them. The point is to do as many of these as possible and just come up with different ideas. Some of them are probably going to be really wacky and weird or off the wall. Others might be a little bit more subdued. The point is just to freeform spitball ideas at the wall, and then maybe not today. I really want to focus on just coming with outfit ideas today. But once we do that, then it'll be kind of combining everything into one final sheet and then doing the inking and coloring. So that's the plan. But yeah, good question. Could even do something like, if I think of a main outfit that I like that I want to use for the character, and I want to put in some alts or think of some other ones, I can always put the designs up on Twitter and have people vote on them. Just say, hey, what looks cool as an alternate design for this character? Tell me which one you like, and we put it in the set for rendering and coloring. We could do something like that too, which could be fun. Mostly this whole character designing thing is kind of a practice exercise for me. Like I talked about previously on these drawing streams, my regular medium is pencil on paper, and I want to get better at drawing things digitally. So I can ink and color pencil scans fairly easily, but drawing characters and everything from scratch is something I want to get better at doing. Hence the character study, where we're doing everything here in Clip Studio Paint from scratch, from ground up. And end goal is to get better. And I'm working on a potential story that I need a character for anyway, so everything sort of lines up nicely. We get a functional character, or even characters, out of the exercise, and I get to practice. Okay, let's get this other shoe in here. Same patterning, just trying to make sure the way it's drawn is consistent here with these things on the side. Kind of mimicking toe claws. Alright. The shoe is good. Let's zoom out and take a look at concept number 4. I would say this one's the most out there so far, but I think the second one is actually a little bit more unusual because it's not symmetrical at all. All right. This one right here might be my favorite so far when it comes to kind of the armored look. I have to give that some thought. I wouldn't mind doing another variation of the armor, something similar but with some tweaks, some other kind of stylized looks. I'm not necessarily committed to the idea of going kind of regular clothing, armor, regular clothing. Doesn't need to be alternating like that for the sake of the exercise. And maybe we can do that next. But let me see. I'm going to organize my layers here before it starts getting too cluttered. Yeah, I'm gonna merge these down. There's really no reason I need to be doing the heads on a separate layer. It's all gonna be inked at the end anyway. So we're gonna call this 3. This is 4. This is 2. Primary. Oh, one's all the way up there. What's it doing up there? This is 1. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't save at all that entire drawing. If Clip Studio crashed, that would have made me very, very sad. I need to appoint someone here on stream to be my save check police. I know Wazzy does that on her art streams, which is really important. Sometimes I will go 2 hours without saving. And Clip Studio is fairly stable as a program. Fortunately, knock on wood. I feel like I've seen more instability and crashes from Photoshop of all things. But every once in a while something will hiccup, and losing a ton of work is no good, not productive. I need to make it a habit of saving periodically while I'm sketching something, not just at the end. But let's see, before we look at doing another another variant here on the outfits. I'm going to see if I can switch up the BGM. So let me go over my loop here. That's ring modulator. I think we want to mess with that. What if we did something like a beat repeat, but just with the rhythm, not the bass line? There we go. I was thinking for something that was a bit more of kind of like a rapid, kind of almost gallop. There we go. I also forgot that beat repeat chops the section that you're currently running through on the loop and cycles that, so you can actually have it repeating different sections if you wanted, which is also pretty handy to use if you wanted to take a different section and then loop that. Let's see. I don't think we need to do filter. Yeah, that might be fine the way it is. It's a real simple adjustment to the beat. Okay, let's work on another sample here. Maybe we could do it like this. Hide number 1. I see a potential problem. One of the advantages to having the head on a separate layer is I can copy it over to each new one that I work on. And now that they're all merged, I can't really do that. That's not a problem. I'll just copy paste it. It's fine. Let's take the primary, and we'll throw it over here in the first slot and work on a new one. this. I'll make sure it's in line. Yeah, it's probably fine. I'd have to organize these things when I'm eventually done with them anyway. Alright. Now, what do we want to do for number 5? Ah, Naked Snake is here. Naked Snake says, "Hi Raku, good news. I got my first arcade stick." Ah, you mean like for fighting games? Like a fight stick? That's cool. What kind of brand and model did you get, Naked Snake? As a person who owns like four fight sticks, I'm curious to see what you got. Alright, we'll keep the guidelines here. I'm most likely going to need to erase all that stuff anyway. Let's see. Talked about doing armor again. Let's go for a different pattern. Something that's up to the neck. I think of how I want to do the patterning here. Naked Snake says a Mayflash F300. Okay, that I don't know Mayflash. Let me look that up and see what it looks like. I'll do that and then I'll see if I can remember what I have sitting under my desk at the moment. F300. I've seen these before. I don't know Mayflash. I've heard their name, but I've never used their products before. What you got was 8 button face fight stick. Looks like standard inputs and buttons on the top. Start button. Let's see, I'm assuming it's wired. Is it wired or wired? Yeah, it's wired. Okay. Okay, yeah, I see it's got a hard wire out and what looks like is that a USB above the port? It's interesting that it's externally hardwired. What I like about some of the Horde designs is that they have a tray for the cord. It's wired internally inside the unit, but there's actually a recessed sealable tray that you can wind up the cord and fold it and put it in there when you're not using it, so it's out of the way. You don't have to wrap the cord around the exterior. But yeah, that looks pretty solid. What kind of buttons does it use? Sorry, I'm kind of flipping back and forth between the Amazon listing and chat. Let's see. Sanwa, compatible with Sanwa Denshi buttons. What does it say on the stock though? Supports X input, yada yada yada, D-pad, yada yada yada, package. It doesn't say what buttons come out of the box. It says it's compatible with Sanwa's if you want to customize it. I wonder why. I wonder if it's just like a generic hardware. Oh, they're actual proprietary Mayflash buttons. I see. blue buttons compatible with Sanwa. Okay, they have their own button housing and hardware. And octagonal gate, huh? Naked Snake says I replaced the restrict gator. That's interesting that you went octagonal gate. I have never used one of those before. All of the fight sticks I own are square gate, which is interesting. I didn't plan it that way. It's just all of the hardware I got has the same gate shape on it. Wazzy says slam all the buttons at once. Maybe Naked Snake is getting ready for the upcoming Ultimax release. Wazzy getting that hardware. Let me move my tablet real quick here. I don't remember what model I have. I've had this fight stick for a while. It's the one I use for all the fighting game stuff I play here on the channel. Oh, I need to dust this sucker. Sorry, my mic is kind of far away. The one that I use was a release by Hori for Soul Calibur 6. Soul Calibur 6 stick. And what model is this? I don't think it says. I'd have to look it up. But this one's also 8-button, like the one you have. And yeah, just make sure I'm not crazy. Square gate. I think this one's Sanwa buttons. It is the PlayStation version of the fight stick. Yeah, it's pretty solid. I like the Hori brand. I think most of mine are all different iterations of their hardware. I had a different, I think Soul Calibur 4 or 5 fight stick before this that was for a 360, so that's 5, I believe. And that one might be 6-button instead of 8. But yeah, the products are good. I also had a Hori EX a while back. It's like a massive, heavy monolith of a fight stick. Taking that to cons was not fun, so I got a smaller one. Naked Snake says, you guessed right about P4. Yep, that would make sense. You see, Wazzy, it's like I was saying before. We need to get a fight club together for Ultimax when it comes out. I am super excited for that game. Just out of curiosity, Naked Snake, have you played Ultimax? Did you play it on the earlier console release? If so, who did you main in P4? I always like asking people that, just out of curiosity. Naked Snake says, I do not like the square gate. Yeah, that's fair. I actually, if it wasn't such an investment, and I don't want to bother tinkering around and modding my stick. I'm not an electrician. But I've always wanted to try octagonal. That's what they usually have in the arcades. But I'm so used to square gate, that's just the standard on all the hardware I've gotten. So it's kind of like, unless it's built into the hardware I buy, I'm not likely to try something new. Like, I can install it, but I don't want to tinker and potentially mess up my stick. Naked Snake says no. No, as far as having played P4A before. I see. Well, it's very akin to Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue and older Guilty Gear. It's all Arxis. Yeah, it's a fun game. Kind of unique mechanics with the whole stands summoning thing with the personas. Yeah, it's a good time. I really like that game. I played it a lot on 360. And they did confirm. Speaking of Ultimax, I follow Wooly of Castle Super Beast on Twitter because I like to keep up with what he and the team are working on. He did confirm, he retweeted a confirmation from one of the things announcing upcoming stuff for Ultimax that the game is going to have rollback netcode. I think a whole bunch of stuff that's coming out is either being retrofitted or it's being re-released with rollback netcode, which is huge for fighting games. It should be an industry standard, in my opinion, for fighting games now, but it's not. The original P4A and P4A Ultimax, obviously in the older days when rollback netcode wasn't standard, didn't have that, and so online was kind of rough. It ran perfectly fine locally, but playing matches online without rollback was a little bit rough if your connection sucked. So the fact that these games are either being released with rollback or if they're re-releasing stuff like these ArcSys games, they're adding that in is super awesome. It's very good for the fighting game scene. But depending on how all that stuff plays out when it comes out, I wouldn't mind doing matches here on stream. We could do something like a private lobby and then stream the matches here. And if we did something like a fight club where a whole bunch of people are in the lobbies and I can spectate and show off people fighting and just kind of messing around, that could be pretty fun. If you guys would be interested in doing something like that once Ultimax comes out, then I can look at getting stuff set up and organized for that, because I really would like to spend some time with the game and play around with it. Alright, we're gonna go for armor again, and we're gonna try another kind of out there design. Naked Snake says, I want to replace the buttons with more clicky buttons. I'm used to Sanwa's. I think most of the stuff that Hori ships out the box is Sanwa buttons and hardware, and they tend to be fairly clicky and springy. I like the responsiveness. Some of the fight sticks or arcade board setups that have kind of those soft, squishy buttons, I don't like. I don't think those are good for fighting games personally. Having the more responsive and springy buttons, I think, are better. And I'd have to go see for the other fight stick I have, but the Sanwas tend to be kind of curved on top. Some of them have like that old Street Fighter 2 kind of recessed look. I don't think they do that so much anymore. But the Mayflash buttons on the hardware that Naked Snake has looks to be similar shape, but if they're not as springy, I could see why you'd want to replace them. I take it from your explanation, Naked Snake, that you're fairly savvy about parts and modding fight sticks. If so, then that's great. I'm not confident in my ability to swap stuff out without damaging the product. That's why I don't do that. Let me see if I can find my other one real quick. I think it's under my bed. I think it's a similar hardware, but I haven't used it in forever. Give me 1 sec to try and find it. I'm gonna take my headphones off so I don't yank everything out. Let's see if I can grab it. Oh man, I need to a dust shroud or something around this one. This, I'm gonna put it on my desk. This one is much older than the Soul Calibur 6 fight stick I have. It is also a Horde brand one, if I remember correctly. Where's the label? Oh no, this is Mad Catz, excuse me. I could remember, it's been a while. This one is a 360, yeah, it's got the Xbox logo. It's a 360 stick, smaller than the Soul Calibur 6 one. This is a Soul Calibur 5 one, like I mentioned before. And it's perfectly fine, but I wanted one that would work on PS4, hence getting the Soul Calibur 6 one a few years ago. But this one will also hook up to my computer, so if I want to play locally with somebody, we can hook up this one via USB, and then we have 2 fight sticks. And the significant thing about this one, I can't remember if it was you, Naked Snake, we were talking about with the Super Best Friends, but when I met the Super Best Friends dudes at PAX, this was probably like 6 years ago, it was a long time ago. When I met them at PAX, I went to their signing when they had their table, and they signed my Soul Calibur 5 fight stick. I don't think I've ever posted a picture of this. Maybe I will at some point. I don't mean to flex on people, but this particular stick is signed by Liam, Matt, Wooly, and Pat. And it's kind of a funny story because they were signing stuff and I was the only one who brought a fight stick. And they were nice enough to sign it. And that was when I got a chance to meet those dudes in person. They were really nice. But yeah, this is a good one too. This is my guest fight stick, really. The problem with the Soul Calibur models is that they're set to the Soul Calibur control scheme, so the buttons are technically in a different order than they would be normally. But that's okay. I usually just remap and make sure. Naked Snake says, will P4 Ultimax be cross-platform? Is it coming out on console? I was talking to Wazi about that recently. I thought it's just on PC or Steam. Let me see if I can confirm that. I'm getting it on PC because it's easier for me to stream since I don't have capture stuff for console. My PS4 isn't even here in this room. Let's see. Persona 4 Ultimax. Okay, it's coming out on PS4 and Steam, both. I don't know if it's going to be cross-platform. I am going to guess no, since ArcSys hasn't really done a whole lot of that. Which may affect where you buy it. I'm getting it on Steam, again, for ease of use and also so I can record off of it pretty easily. But if they do have crossplay, that would be fantastic. That'd be kind of a first, I think, for a lot of their games, but I'm going to assume it's not. So yeah, I'll be picking it up on Steam, and we'll see what happens. Alright, before we jump back into the concept design here, I'm going to go refill my water bottle real quick. So I'm going to turn my mic off, but I'm going to let the BGM rock here, so I'll be back in just 1 minute. I'll turn it up just a little bit, and then I'll drop it back down when I get back. So I'll be back in 1 sec. All right, we are back. Yeah, my volume setting them out there. All right, should be good to go. All right, let's see where we left off here. Okay, kind of keeping up with the theme so far with the armor designs. I want to go for something that's a bit more kind of sharp edge like the other one, but maybe a different sort of shape on the torso and lower body. So let's see. I'm going to flip between this one and the other one just to make sure I'm not sort of just duplicating designs. Maybe we can add some texturing here. I think the patterning on the shoulder and arm plating is going to need to be a little bit more distinct. I got some ideas on how I want to do that. Now, the real question is, how do we want to lay out the midsection on this one? I do like the idea of kind of a more high-reaching midsection torso guard type thing, but let's see if we can go for a different shape than the other one. Wazzy says, okay, gotta bounce. Have a good stream. I didn't even realize you were still here, Wazzy. But thanks for stopping by. Can't remember if you're on the road yet, but I will catch you later. As usual, have a good evening and take it easy. I gotta send you something later on Discord, an update on stuff. I'll ping you later. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Naked Snake says, my arcade stick works for everything. Oh, that's what I was going to check. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, so the Mayflash F300 is universal. That is interesting. I don't understand why in the older generations of stuff, they were console exclusive when it's the same hardware, essentially. I think it's some of the interface buttons are obviously proprietary, but you'd think they would sell a lot more if they just made it so that they were universal. PC, Xbox, PlayStation. The Nintendo consoles are a little bit more tricky because Nintendo's more picky with their hardware. But for the other ones, just make them universal, man. So that's good that yours works on anything. That's what I would look for in a piece of hardware. Hold on, let me ban somebody real quick. That's the second one today. It's a pretty good entry price on that stick that you got too, Naked Snake. They can get spendy. Admittedly, some of the ones I bought, I paid a decent amount for, but I didn't want to have to worry about replacing my hardware. And I think between the 360 one and the PS4 one, that's probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5-ish years. But I needed one for PS4, so I kind of had to buy a new one. Hey, Pint-Sized Kiwi is here. Kiwi says, hello, time for my daily dose of seeing better art than mine. Oh, I don't know about that. We're doing character concept sketches here, so we're not creating the Mona Lisa. But welcome to the drawing stream, Kiwi. We were talking about fighting games and fighting game hardware earlier. Technically still are. Oh, Pink is here. Hey, what's up, Pink? Pink says, who's the character, Beatbox Boy? Ah, so to give a little bit of background for folks who may have just been tuning into these character streams for the first time, I am working on a character study for a potential story that I want to write. And because I'm not too good at digital art, being a pencil on paper artist, these character studies are a way for me to, one, practice. We're doing sketching here, and we're not going to be doing any inking or coloring today, but drawing characters from scratch is not something I'm used to, so doing that here is practice, and also concept ideas. Let me zoom out here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. We're doing outfits today, and so the character here, this female character that we started with, I am just experimenting with basic clothing designs and armor designs to potentially use for a finalized concept piece. She doesn't have a name. I've been working on that too, but basically this is just one big brainstorming session and coming up with ideas for outfits and seeing what sticks. Kiwi says, I mean, my own profile picture is made by myself for reference. Kiwi says, bro, my digital art is worse than my paper art as well. And Pink says, I see. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I've been drawing pencil on paper ever since I was a wee larva way back in the day. But I've had tools for digital stuff for a while. I've been working at it. It's just, since this whole VTuber thing gives me a chance to actually dedicate work streams, it gives me basically no excuse to not actually draw stuff on stream for practice and get better. but depending on where you started, it's never too late to practice and get into a new medium, and it's just grinding and practicing. Pink says, bops Kiwi gently with newspaper. Stop putting yourself down to praise others. I agree with Pink. Everyone's got to start somewhere. There are plenty of artists I follow that are leagues in my mind above me, but it's not really about comparing yourself to others. It's comparing your work to your own work. And as long as you keep learning and practicing and getting better, then that's all that matters. Well, it also matters that you enjoy what you're doing. Don't do art if you don't like it. I don't understand when people do that. Kiwi says, I like to think of myself as more a creature designer. Me too, Kiwi. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but the majority of the stuff I've done on stream has been creature design. We had the Monster Hunter Fusion project, which we wrapped up a while back. But my background is in drawing non-humanoid creatures, and I want to get better at drawing people in like a manga or anime style, hence why you're seeing the practice that we're doing here. Naked Snake says Jill Sandwich. Not the Jill Sandwich. Kiwi says, I have this great sketch of 02. Oh, not the anime girl. The bleeding angel boss from Kirby. And Kiwi says, I love making art. I doodle a lot. Well, that's good. I'm the type of person who has to take ideas and either write them down or draw them out when I think of them, because if I don't, I will forget, and that's especially a problem if I go to sleep. Usually if it's within the same day, as long as I remember to get the idea out, it's not a problem, but if I go to sleep, I will forget everything. It's a problem for beatboxing, it's a problem for art. Kiwi says, I combine my love for drawing animals and speculative biology evolution into my things. Oh, that's cool. Sort of a mix of different influences that affects your final products. Kiwi says, and also scare the hell out of my friends at realistic cartoon characters. Are you a subscriber of the I'm Sorry John subreddit, creating Garfield monstrosities? Because I fully endorse that. I think that stuff is awesome. Kiwi says, my favorite was Satan Claus. Are you on Twitter, Kiwi? If so, send me a link to your stuff. I'd love to check it out. If you have a gallery or like a Tumblr or DA or anything else, send it to me over on Twitter. I'd love to take a look. Yeah, I'm not gonna judge your work. I'm just curious to see what you do. Naked Snake jumps in, continuing our fighting hardware discussion. Are Sanwa good? You're talking about buttons? Yes. I don't know about compared to other competing brands, but I think all of the sticks I have Sanwa buttons, and I like them. I like the feel, the responsiveness and springiness. Probably similar to what you're talking about. So if you're going to be modding your stick and taking the Mayflash ones out, you might look at getting Sanwas. Kiwi said, I ain't touching Twitter with a 50-foot pole. I don't blame you. Twitter is kind of a hellscape of a platform. But even if it's not Twitter specifically, let's see. I don't think you might be able to post links here, but either way, if you can find a way to link me to your work, I'd love to see it. And that goes for anybody else too, but most of the other artists I know, I've seen wherever they post the majority of their content. Pink says, Twitter is scary. That is an understatement of the year. My summary of Twitter, as a person who uses it primarily for interacting with some people I know and updating folks on stuff like all of my VTuber content, Twitter seems like a miserable place meant for people who like being miserable in a miserable place. That is my most accurate description of that platform. And I don't understand why people would purposely want to go somewhere and be miserable. But then again, that's why Reddit exists too. Alright, I want to do an arm guard on this one too, but I want the shape to be kind of different. So we can do something like this. And then change up the texturing on it so it's not like this one over here. Kiwi says, I make art for YouTube thumbnails. I would also say I'm pretty good at pixel art. Pixel art is a very interesting medium. I know how to do pixel art. I'm not the best at it, and I don't really do it much here on this particular platform. But really detailed, high-res pixel art is really awesome to look at. Depending on your style of pixel art, if you do like lineless or if you do like black border, which is what I know how to do, it is a tedious process to make. So people that are really good at it get massive props from me. Pink says, what sort of principles are you putting into your design? Like, do you have any rules in place yet or still sort of in the idea phase? If you're talking about outfit design, any rules for the outfit design that I'm working on here, Pink? The answer is there's no set rules. This particular project that I'm working on is from kind of an existing universe of fiction and stuff that I've written for. And so the characters have specific ethnic outfits and whatnot, types of attire that's typical for their respective races. And so that's kind of the rules for the outfit I'm designing. It's not just completely off the cuff, even though it may look that way. So, to give kind of a broad example, a lot of the ideas and themes for this particular character's race's attire tends to focus on things that are asymmetrical, hence things like this, things that like the shirt to some extent, but the idea that things aren't completely symmetrical is kind of a common trope. So I'm sort of messing around with that and seeing what kind of twists I can put on it. But armor specifically, I like the idea of kind of sharp-edged, spiky armor. What we're trying to do is iterate on that idea and come up with different variations that we could potentially use for the actual character piece. And then just throwing ideas at the wall. I call it spitballing. Just throwing ideas together that may be outlandish or weird and just seeing what sticks. That's why you go from like something straightforward, kind of like this. You have like a kind of casual attire and a shirt, and then you have like mask plus outfit, dress, mesh bodysuit. So yeah, basically throwing ideas at the wall. Kiwi says, this character you're making reminds me of a sketch I did of a woman in spiky armor. Yep, that's the idea. I'm like, if we wanted to go really crazy with it, we won't need to do it here, but you know, we could do something like, put like tons of spikes everywhere if we really wanted to. Wouldn't necessarily be functional, but we could. That's kind of the theme. Let's see. Oh boy, chat's moving today. Naked Snake says, what color should the sanwa be? You mean for the buttons or for the housing or both? Because I think you can customize both the buttons and the housing that's they're inserted in. I think it kind of just depends on your preference. If you're customizing that Mayflash thing that you got, it's like a kind of slate color, right? Mine are on my Soul Calibur one, they're dark blue, and my other Soul Calibur one, they're a mix of grays and multicolors, which is kind of weird. All right, Kiwi says, I have a unique border. It's like Minecraft pixel art borders. Okay, so do you do color lines for the boundaries on your pixel art? Because it doesn't sound like you're doing lineless. Because I've messed around with that, but I primarily do black border pixel art. I like clean black outlines. I'd like to learn lineless, but I haven't yet. And Pink says, oh, that's interesting. Kiwi says, maybe you could have layered armor, like a window blind that one side goes up and the other side goes down. That's interesting. That's not really something I thought about. I don't know if that's really gonna be functional for this particular one right here that we're working on. It's kind of set up to be symmetrical. But let's see. If we were to just to sketch that out. I like that idea. If we were to do like, let's say torso. Do this real quick here. And the arms and person's head up here. We're talking about like layered plates and directions. This might not be exactly what you're describing, but the idea, like this is going to be a variation kind of like plate mail as opposed to like the samurai textures you're talking about. But if we did something like this where the plates go down like one side of the body, again, it doesn't have to be realistic or functional. That is not the point of the exercise. But if we look at the torso and we had plates going this way, same thing on whatever's protecting the arm. But on the opposite side, let's see if I can get this clean. The plating goes in the opposite direction. And it's going upwards. It's basically layered from the bottom and going up this way in this direction. So it kind of looks like there's two halves that are overlapped, which I think is a really neat idea. Maybe we can do that next. It's going to look really funky. So basically you have these plates on this side going down this way and the plates this way going up that way. And you can even do something like add like jewels or something inset on one side or the other. So, very interesting. Very good suggestion. I like that. It'd be different from everything else we've done. I'm just going to put you over here. We're going to come back to that. Pink says, are you using Paint Tool Sai or Clip Studio Paint? It's so white my brain can't decide. This is Clip Studio Paint. And as far as why I'm using a light mode versus a dark mode, I don't know why I haven't configured the program that way. I have been using Clip Studio Paint since it was Manga Studio way back in the day. But I never bothered to change the settings, so I just got used to using it in light mode. Funny thing, I use Photoshop for other stuff, and I use that in dark mode. So maybe it's just like a habit thing as opposed to a preference thing. But I apologize if it's blindingly bright. Kiwi says, I just use Autodesk Sketchbook. I have never used Sketchbook. I've used Autodesk programs before, but not that one. I know a decent amount of artists that use Paint Tool Sai. That's one I never got into using just because I gravitated towards some of the other major well-known programs at the time. One of my favorite artists, a fairly well-known dude online named Plague of Gripes, known for his Pokemon animations, probably more recently. He uses Paint Tool Sai, and he's messed around with other ones like Photoshop and Clip Studio too, but I think his default is Sai. the basics I know about navigating that program I actually learned from that guy. Kiwi says, I just use Sketchbook because I learned how to use it once in an art class and never got any other programs. Well, that's fair. It really doesn't matter what program you use as long as it works for you and does what you want. People have asked me before, since I use a few different programs, if they should bother picking up another one or learning it. And I say, only really do that if you're curious and want to learn, or if the one that you're using doesn't do what you want. Like, Clip Studio admittedly is just a drawing, and actually it can animate too. I haven't figured out how to do that because animation boggles my mind, but there's nothing that this program does that Photoshop doesn't do, and this one's astronomically cheaper to own. But if you want a really powerful program that can do some other stuff, again, it comes down to just whatever your projects are and what you need. I would never tell people you just need to use Photoshop. That's not true. If you're a drawing type artist, you could get everything out of a program like this, or even a free one like Sai. The free ones tend to require a bit more setup and navigation for getting it in a form that you can use, but functionally, there's no reason why you need to go to the big expensive programs. Pink says, I also use Photoshop and CSP. I like sketching in Photoshop. I find CSP better for line art. Ah, that makes sense. Let's see, for Clip Studio, I like the layer management and the tools, like the default tools and commands I like better, just because right out the box, I don't have to mess around with settings to configure it that way. Like for example, it's really a trivial thing to make a big deal over, but I like that the default right click with my stylus is the color sample. I'm sure you can do that in Photoshop instead of hitting I for the eyedropper, but for color sampling, you just right click with with Clip Studio and it does it. I also like that the clipping tools and the layer management is kind of like Pink saying good for line art. I could do all that stuff in Photoshop, but like the brush settings and everything else are a little bit less cumbersome to set up in Clip Studio. Let's see. Pink says Fire, Alpaca, and Medibang are also really good free programs. I know people that use GIMP. I don't know if they're still updating that one. There was another one for Vector. I don't think that was GIMP. I don't remember because it's been forever. But yeah, there's programs out there that you can get for free and they'll do whatever you need to do. Or they just may take some learning to get set up properly. And Clip Studio doesn't require a lot of setup. I could customize my interface more, but really it does everything I need. And with the addition of those 3D models for reference stuff, it's pretty fun. It's a fun series of tools to use. Let's see. Kiwi says, does this program have that purple thing that makes color? Also, Sketchbook defaults to saving as a TIFF file. The color marking thing, I don't know what that is necessarily. I may have seen it, and I don't know if Clip Studio has that function since I don't know what the command is. Maybe Pink, who also uses, can tell you. I don't know. Let's see, Pink says, Kiwi, are you talking about masking? Yeah, that's a good question. We'll let them clarify. I feel like the clipping commands for masking stuff in Clip Studio is a little bit less obtuse than it is in Photoshop. Works the same way, but you literally just click a button. And setting line layers as references are way easier in Clip Studio. I don't know why they make it so difficult in Photoshop. Let's see. Kiwi says, I see it in Speed Paints, and I'm pretty sure it's not in Sketchbook, and it looks cool. Yeah, it's hard to say without seeing the actual command demonstrated. Because there's blending effects and the ability to do, like, in Clip Studio, you can do a lot of paint things. I can't digitally paint to save my life. I'd love to learn, but those commands are all really easy to do. Pink says, I think you're talking about clipping masks then. Okay, that's possible. And we can kind of demo how that works in this software real quick. Let me see. Let me get myself a new layer. All right, down here. Okay. Let's see. What's the best way to demo clipping masks? Let's create a circle. Create a reference. This is how I use clipping masks, so hopefully this explanation makes sense. So let's say we had an object that we were going to be coloring and inking and what have you. By setting the reference, we'll treat the circle, the black, as the line art, right? Your ink layer. You set it as a reference using this thing that looks like what's that, a lighthouse? I think it's a lighthouse. And everything references to that layer. So if you create another one below it, and then just do a color fill, it's referencing the outline above and filling to that layer for the color below it. Now, if we create another layer in between, and we turn on this thing, which looks like a sideways Venn diagram, clip it layer, turn that on, what it does is it creates a clipping mask like Pink is talking about, and it's clipping to the color layer below it. So just this, not the line art. So if we want to shade, let's say we wanted to just, we'll do mechanical pencil, need to remember my line weight. And let's say we wanted to shade. The clipping mask is restricting the area that I'm coloring purely to the colored section below, aka this. Notice how it's not letting me color outside the lines or outside the boundary of the colored space? That's because it's restricting it using that clipping command. If we turn it off, and it's denoted by the little red line here, it's how you know that your clipping's enabled. If you turn it off, then it spills the color out and everything you've colored on the previous layer is not restricted. But when you turn it on, it takes the layer below it and says, you're not allowed to color outside the boundaries of whatever that space is. And again, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. And let's see, Kiwi says, I don't think that's it, but it's fine and also a neat feature. Clipping is super, super useful. I remember a time when that didn't exist, and if you wanted to do line art shading, you just had to manually clean up things outside the lines, and it was way more work. But it's just a toggle here in Clip Studio. In Photoshop, it's located in a separate spot, and you got to be kind of careful with how you assign the clipping mask, but it does the same thing. Great time saver when it comes to working within different layers. All right, let me delete this. Good discussion. It's always interesting when we have artists tune into the drawing streams. Let's see, go away. Make sure I don't delete the layers I'm working on. I'm going to reset the BGM back to what it was before. Pink says, well, I'm thinking of a similar feature. It's like clipping mask, but slightly different. Don't know how to explain it because I never use it. Kiwi says, I think it might be in Sketchbook. Yeah, I guess it's difficult to tell without seeing the actual command in action. All right, let's get back to our armor design here. See if we can do something kind of similar. We have a plated armor section that goes here past the midsection, but not quite as far down as the one over here with the cloth. We could even give it the same patterning as the midsection guard up here. Kiwi says, I just find it a pain to manually color everything and do shading. Yeah, I hear that. I know there's a bunch of different schools of thought for coloring and shading, and there's no one right school of thought, obviously. But for me, when I'm doing something like this and I have line art, I do my color assignment by doing form fills, which is a little bit tricky to do when my keyboard's so far away from my tablet. But when I'm drawing, sometimes I'll just slide it out of the way and bring my keyboard back for color assignment because I can shift click, and I can't do that with my tablet without assigning a button. But I'll quick select, let's say, real quick, all the areas that I'm going to be filling for a certain color, just for an example. And I'll shift click and select all those with the wand and get all of the, let's say, all the clothing parts I want a certain color selected. And then I will expand the selection by a pixel so that I'm not within the borders of the line art. And then I'll just paint bucket the whole thing. I know people who do it by section, where they'll take something like the lasso or the polygonal selection, and let's say this section they want to be a certain color. They'll do like a polygon selection and they'll fill it that way. It just depends on what's the most efficient. Kiwi says, wait, I haven't ever seen that. Oh, are you talking about like a group selection fill? I can demonstrate that if you want to see what that looks like. It's probably something you've seen before. I'm just not explaining it well. Let me show you what I'm talking about again. Just to do an example. Oh, get over here, keyboard. Give me 1 second here. All right. So let's say we set this. Let's pretend that this sketch layer here is line art. In Clip Studio, I'd set it as a reference. Create a color layer underneath. And let's say we were going to do all of the armor. I use the wand tool, which functions like it does in every other program. And this is going to be really rough because it's not clean lines, but it'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's say I want all these sections of the armor to be one color. I just select them. I use expand, which is the same as select expand in Photoshop, and expand it by 1 pixel. And then let's say I want it to be green. Then I just form fill the whole thing. And again, it's not clean because it's sketch. It's a sketch pencil layer, but all the sections are filled instantly. And I'd go through the entire line art and do all the different sections on respective layers. Like I usually do hair on one layer, skin on one layer, outfit, armor, clothing on one layer, everything else. That way I can tweak levels if I want to change the color paletting, and then fill it all down that way. And then shading, I just do a layer on top and clip it and then put my shading in using something like a pencil tool. Again, it's not the only way to do things, but that's the way I usually do it for complex pieces. Let's see. Pink says, I personally wand the entire outside of the line art, inverse it, and fill, making clipping layers needed for colors. Yeah, you could do that too, to illustrate what Pink's talking about. If I take the... Oh, this is going to probably be weird. If we take the entire outside border of the quote-unquote line art... And where's my menu? Where did my menu go? Oh, it's down here. You invert it, and then fill it. Then it creates color over the whole thing, and then you can go in and color individual sections. And it makes it so you're essentially coloring backwards, but doing it this way means you have no white spots, which is nice. And that's a way to do it too. I should probably experiment around with that. It depends on what kind of piece you're drawing. I tend to do solid black outlines and line arts aside from hair, so most of the stuff is blocked in fairly well. But if you're doing something that's got a more painterly look, or it's not necessarily solid line art, then doing it the way Pink's describing is a good way to get all the colors assigned without having broken spots or gaps. Let's see. Kiwi says, this may sound stupid, but what is a wand tool? I don't think there's a wand in Sketchbook. Okay. Good question. There's got to be something like a selection tool in Sketchbook if it's a graphics program. In Photoshop and Clip Studio, the tool we're talking about here is the wand. Looks like a little magic wand. What it does is it selects a whole area. So if I click here, and this is set as a reference, this line art. If I click here, then it's going to select the entire bounded section of the hair. As long as there's no breaks and open parts, it's going to select the whole thing to the best of its ability. And then if you're working all in one layer, you can just fill it with a paint bucket or a fill tool, and it fills in that entire section. Notice there's kind of a white border because, again, it's not solid. It's not solidly blocked in with an ink. But one selection just means selecting one area and having it grab that area, usually to manipulate or fill or shade or what have you. And actually, no, I'm going to say paint. Classic Paint, I don't think has that. Yeah, I can't imagine or think of a time when that wasn't part of basic graphic programs like Photoshop. If you didn't have one selection, it would suck. You'd have to do everything manually. Alright, I'm going to experiment around with the idea of kind of this scaled plating down here. This is like a lower torso armor type deal. It'd be jointed plates that allow for movement, but not really something that's wrapped around the legs. You can add some contouring here, be consistent with the other parts. Kiwi says, okay, I think I found it, but it's confusing me. If the selection tool is being weird when you're trying to select an area, like I mentioned before, make sure that whatever you're selecting is closed. So, to illustrate, if I use the wand tool on this, it's going to select the whole canvas. It's going to basically say the canvas is your whole area, and it's because this part's not filled in. But if it's closed completely, then when you hit the wand or selection tool in the middle, it's only going to grab the inner circle, the inside of the lines. Depending on what it's doing that's weird, that's usually the first problem that people run into. But it is interesting thinking about graphics programs and things we take for granted. There was a time when wand selection didn't exist. And that would really be annoying. Let's see, Kiwi says, I don't even know if it is. It's a selection setting with a wand in the corner. It sounds like what you're describing is some sort of selection tool. Whether or not it behaves like the tool I showed off here or in Photoshop, I wouldn't know without actually seeing it, but I'm working on the wrong layer again. There we go. The real question is whether or not it allows you to grab specific areas like a regular selection tool. I'm just doing a volume check, make sure this thing's not too loud. What we'll do is we can kind of add a similar jeweled motif here on the leg armor. And we'll do kind of a similar deal with the armored shoes. Let's see, what do we do? The pointy ones over here. Maybe we can go for different texture on these. Something kind of like that. All right, let's hide the primary and we'll see how number 5 turned out. Maybe what we can do is finish up this one. I do want to experiment with this idea of the asymmetrical plate up here. We can see how long that takes and then maybe we'll wrap up for today. just doing a little bit of cleanup here on the arms. Yeah, I think we're done with this one. So if we were to compare the armor type pieces, this one is the most covering of the armor pieces, the most kind of armor intensive ones of the three. If we look at, this is 2, this is 4, this is 5. Yeah, it's not bad. I think that could be functional. There might be some parts I would switch out, but as far as variation goes, it's a bit less chaotic than number 2 for sure, and is heavier than number 4. Yeah, not bad. Alright. Let me hide number 2. Get the primary back up here. And we will try one more, which is probably going to be the most outlandish of all of them. But let's scoot the primary over. Then I'm going to need to grab the face too. Let's do this. Come on. There we go. We'll do arm down. I don't know why I bothered with the arm raised primary. I've only used it once. He said, sorry, I had to go for a moment. My grandpa called me. Oh, no worries. It's all good. We're going to try your suggestion with the different directions next. I have an idea of how I want to do that or incorporate that idea. So let's see, we're going to call this one 5. And this one's going to be 6. Just going to copy paste the head over here. Give me a place to work from on the primary. There we go. All right. So let's see. This one, like I said, it's probably going to be one of the more out there ones, but that's the point. It's the whole point of the exercise. Actually, I'm going to follow directions on the sample that we were looking at earlier. So if we're looking at plating that sort of goes upwards. So you can follow the contours of the body here. Kind of looks like shells of something like an insect or some sort of creature with a hard shell, which is, again, a neat idea for armor. Let's see. Kiwi says, also, do you have your own Discord? I do not have my own Discord yet for this VTuber stuff. I thought about setting one up, but honestly, I don't really have the resources to manage a Discord. But if you want to talk to me, Kiwi, I'm on Wazi's Discord. In fact, I should be in there. I'm always in there, just kind of lurking around. But if you want to send me a request on there, then feel free. Let me make sure. Make sure I'm not a liar. Yep, I'm in there. If you see me on there and want to send me a request, that's perfectly fine. I want to set up a Discord at some point, but it's a bit of a heavy lift to administer more than anything else. But that might be something I look at doing in 2022. There's enough of a demand. Okay, Kiwi says, yeah, I posted some of my stuff in the art channel. Okay, I will make sure and check that out. In fact, I can jump over there right now. Let's see. Artists? Ah, there it is. I see. I like your evil koala. Reminds me of the video game Rampage for some reason. Alright, now let me see if I can get the overlapping opposite parts of the plate. Kind of like the idea that this is cut off at the shoulders, essentially, like a torso guard. I may have to clean up the edges here so it's not doesn't look like one big blob here. Yeah, we're gonna say this has got more of a non-conforming shape on the torso. It's not like it's vacuum sealed boob armor. It's gonna be something that's covering the body, so it's gonna obscure the curves and lines like armor functionally should, I guess. Alright, this does create an interesting effect. So if we were to continue on with the sort of direction of the way the plating goes, stuff on this limb, again, everything is going downwards. Maybe we have it cut off at the arm and then do something like a bracer deal like we did for the other ones. But the idea that everything is following a direction this way, and then we do the same thing but go in the opposite direction this way, that is a very interesting concept. Not something I would have thought about before. let's see. Clean up the lines, make sure. I think functionally this would have to be kind of like a solid piece. Maybe these plates are kind of jointed so that they don't just fuse into one solid thing. But maybe we do something like add sort of a textured look on one side, and maybe this side is like actual brushed metal or some sort of harder material like that, so that's like two different textures and it's more distinct. Now, the real question is how do you want to carry that type of design down to the lower body, if at all? I have to think about that. Let's see. Kiwi says I could quickly sketch an idea. Sure, go for it. I'm always open to suggestions. That's one of the things that's nice about doing sort of a free form character drawing thing like this. It's exactly that, free form. You just take whatever ideas come up and see if they work. Try them out. I thought about doing kind of like a collaborative drawing space thing for something like this, but for this particular project, that didn't really seem like I'd get much use out of it. But in the future, especially if we start working on other projects, I'd be open to the idea of setting up a shared space. And yep, that is a completely new one too. Well, let me banish this bot to the Shadow Realm. That's the third one today. Get out of here. Pink says, dang, what's up with the weird bots? It's been happening more lately. Usually, sometimes I'll get one in a 3-hour stream. Sometimes I'll get 2 or 3 in a 3-hour stream. I don't know. I don't think it's because I'm becoming more famous or anything. I think they're just out there trolling through the lists of everybody who's streaming. And they see someone who's live and they go, hey, check out hot singles in your area, or I don't even know what those links are for. It's just a sketchy link. But yeah, they're pretty easy to just banish. Let's see. Still thinking about the lower torso and how to work with this idea. We definitely want it to look like the armor is fused together all the way down the body. That would look kind of unusual, I think. But maybe we could do something like this. Basically, the design theory here is that this upper torso piece is kind of interlocking plates, and then it's got fabric underneath it that's maybe sewn in or adhered to the inside so that you're not having grinding plates up against your bare skin. And then that's the part that you're seeing here that comes down. And then maybe we could follow similar patterning with the leg guards that go all the way down. Follow the direction. Pink says, totally not a sketchy link that will steal your credit card info and social security number. It's either like a sketch link that's unspecified or a straight up porn bot. I've had both here, not at the same time usually. It's one or the other. Be like, come check out topless grandmas in your area or something or other. And it's like, that's not what people come to my streams for, I don't think. I don't know, I could be wrong. Alright, let's see. Kiwi says, I put basic sketch in art. Okay. If you don't want to clutter up Wazi's server with stuff, again, feel free to send me a request if you want. If not, it's fine. I can see it there. I don't know if she has any rules about just random stuff, but it's probably fine. Okay, so let's see. I see it. So the torso, the lower legs, I see kind of like a plated upper thigh type thing with a rough texture or like a spiky texture. And then, okay. The knee section and then sort of plates going down. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Let me do this. What we could do is have things going down this way on one leg. And then have it end here. And it's going to look a little bit similar to this, but I think the direction-wise we can switch it up a little bit. But kind of taking your idea of sort of the plating going down this way. Again, this one's going to be, the point is asymmetry across the whole thing. Kiwi says, slightly different upper design, but legs are the focus. Yeah, totally. I gotcha. So we do something like this. And then on this side, we kind of take what you're talking about here with like the kind of knee pad thing that goes like that. Sort of a connective part. I think the shape, we probably want to follow a similar shape for the leg, but then change the plating up, right? Change the direction of the plating. So like for this one, keeping in line with what we got up here on the upper body. Go like this. And you can do the same thing on the lower leg guards. And to sort of show that it's being kind of consistent, we could do the same kind of rough brush texture. Plates like that. What we've done, essentially, is we kind of followed the same direction, different direction theme here, and kept it respective to each part of the body, which is the point. Again, I don't know how functional something like this would be in actual combat, but it's a neat idea. The point of this exercise is not realism by any means. but we could do something similar for the arm. Let's see. We get a rough direction of where the arm's going. Let's see. Pink says, you're looking for good and interesting shapes, eh? Yeah, again, just seeing what sticks. I like the idea of a theme for an outfit and then trying to carry that theme into all the different parts of the body. You know, from torso, limbs, upper body, lower body, and all that. Just to see, you know, if you're going to design an outfit. How would you make those themes consistent? Because you can make it really chaotic and just completely random and nothing sort of fits together, which is kind of how I did some of these. But if you had a dedicated theme like this directional armor, to me that's an interesting challenge. And we could even do something like, for the other arm guard, make the plates go the opposite direction, follow the same path. Give it the same rough texture. If I was coloring this, I would probably make each half a different color, which would look really funky and weird. But I think it'd be appropriate. Alright, now I just need to do the feet. I think I'm going to keep the shoes kind of a similar type of setup. Well, let's see. Maybe we can try and do the directional thing. Gonna commit to it. Might as well do it for all the different pieces of the outfit. And maybe it's not as dramatic for the feet, but if we did this one going kind of an upper direction and this one going like a downward direction like that, and that could be a way to make it kind of consistent. We'll just need to make sure we're not completely blocking the foot off so it looks squished. Something like that. Alright, let's zoom out, take the primary out off the background, and see. that is a very interesting end result. Very different from all the other ones. Kind of trading off the idea of asymmetry, right? Not having it look identical on each side. But this whole idea of sort of the plating having different directions, I find very, very interesting. I will think of sort of story and lore wise how it would fit a design like this in there. It's very distinct. To sort of recap what we did on this one, in addition to the idea of asymmetry, it's directions, right? Everything on this side of the body is going downwards. The plating on the limbs, plating on the torso, everything is sort of pointing or moving in a downwards direction. And on this side, everything is moving in an upwards direction. It's basically layered in reverse. And so from the feet, legs, lower legs, upper legs, and then torso, everything is following an upwards pattern, which is neat. Coloring something like this would be interesting. Like I said, I'd probably do two-toned. It was up to me. Oh. Don't go that way. Stay there. All right, let's take a look at the results of everything we did in the study today. Fairly productive. Normally I only get through 1 or 2 of these. In total, we've got 4. Yeah, 1 and 2 were last time. To recap, we started with kind of a more casual wear, like a shirt with kind of a leggings, textured leggings type look. We did a variation on armor here. We added metal mask, a torso-based piece of armor, things on the arms, a longer sort of dress type garment that's got protection on the legs as well. We took that formula and we mixed it up some more with this one, going for, again, symmetry and a bit more of a layered plated look. Almost looks like knight armor from a game. And then the last one was the experiment. This one here. Again, focusing on armor, but the idea of asymmetry and things moving in different directions. And of the ones that I did, I think this one would be my favorite, followed by this one. This one's fine. I feel like it doesn't really do a whole lot that stands out. It's just more consistent, but this one is funky, and I'm gonna find a way to work that one in. Very interesting. So thanks to Pint Size Kiwi for the suggestion on the directional armor. I don't know if this is exactly what you were talking about, but the idea in my mind about having the plating going flip directions looks something like this. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. But I think we will go ahead and call that a stream for today. Oh, it went 3 hours. Time kind of flew by today. Next time we load up the character study, I will think about if I want to do another round of outfits. Maybe we will look at paring them down and moving on to the inking phase. I don't know. I would like potentially have 20 different designs to pick from, but we'll see. The next drawing stream is probably going to be a different focus, maybe a different project to mix things up, but we'll see. Well, yeah, that'll do for today. Thanks to all the folks who stopped by and hung out. There's lots of good artist conversations here, which I really appreciate. We will be back on stream tomorrow. A little bit later. It'll be 4:30 Pacific time. But we're going to return to God Hand. We will be smacking demons with the power of the God Hand, and I will be joined by Matt from Team Toxicure. He is going to be co-hosting with me tomorrow, and we will see how that discussion goes, because I think it's going to be a different vibe. Maybe a little more chill and less chaotic, because I won't have Wazzy screaming in my ear for 3 hours. But it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So if that sounds like something you guys would be interested in, then feel free to stop by here tomorrow and watch me get absolutely demolished by one of the hardest PS2 games of all time. But until then, thanks again for chilling today, and I will catch you folks later. Have a good evening.